Hi, I'm Campbell Choate, joined with Anthony Silvani and Will Stephenson, and this is Beyond the Sidelines. First up, Aaron Rodgers reportedly does not want to play for the Packers again. Guys, what do you think?
Very sad to be a Packers fan today, not going to lie. Aaron Rodgers has been requesting that the front office do certain things to help him have a better potential to succeed. Then what do? They go and trade up for a quarterback last year, and then this year they don't take a receiver in a very stacked wide receiver class when there were a ton of good receivers still available on the board. And now, after a bunch of years of disrespecting Rodgers, he's finally over it and wants to leave. Makes a lot of sense that he wants to leave. Very sad for the Packers, though.
Yeah, when the news broke out 2 weeks ago that he wanted to leave, I think it was bigger than the draft. I think for the 5 hours between, the draft wasn't the main focus. It was main focusing on Aaron Rodgers wanting out. And then a couple of days later, he wanted the Packers to fire their GM. I think he's kind of going about this all wrong. He wants out. Just request a trade. I don't think they'll trade him because he's their guy. They love him in Green Bay. The fans love him. Matt LaFleur loves him. And I don't think they're ready to give Jordan Love that chance yet.
I don't think they're ready to give him that chance either, but I think that they're going to be forced to give Jordan Love the chance. Because if Rodgers doesn't get traded before the start of the season, I really believe that Rodgers will retire to not have to play. Pull a Carson Palmer. Because Carson Palmer retired from the Bengals for a year so that he wouldn't have to, because they wouldn't build around him, so he inevitably just had to retire and then come back.
Yeah, Gronk did the same thing, except he was going to get traded to the Lions. But,
Nice.
I think the Packers should just go ahead and trade him. They're going to get a lot of value out of it, at least 2 or 3 first-round picks, and probably a young star, or young rising star. So I think they should evidently trade him.
I think that they'll get a young star and maybe 2 first-round picks, depending on how good the young star is.
Yeah.
They're not going to get 3 picks
And they'll
a
probably
star.
think about maybe at least a 3rd or a 4th in return.
Yeah.
The NFL schedule release is tonight, and Week 1 is set with Dallas going to Tampa to play the Bucs in the season opener. What do you guys think about the Cowboys playing the Super Bowl winners?
I'm excited for this. It's 2 of the most talented offenses in the NFL, and it's on paper it's 2 of the most talented offenses in the NFL. It's Dak's return, and Brady's looking for his 8th. I think this is going to be one of the games of the season, Week 1.
What game of the season? I need you to say that one more time out loud.
Could be one of the games of the season.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is going to stifle a Dak Prescott who hasn't taken contact in over almost a year. The corners for the Cowboys are going to get burnt by the receivers for the Buccaneers, with Godwin, Brown, Evans, Scotty Miller, O.J. Howard's coming back, I think, Cameron Brate, Rob Gronkowski, that amazing offensive line. And the Cowboys' defense is atrocious. Parsons was a terrible addition. They should have gone secondary. They should have gone Farley or Newsome instead of Parsons in the draft. And the Cowboys' offensive line is terrible, and their quarterback gets the stats because of garbage time. If you look at it, Dak's passing yards and touchdowns always come in garbage time after they're already down 20 points.
Yeah, I think this would be a more exciting game than you think.
I think it's going to be a blowout for the Bucs.
I don't think it will be. I think Dallas will stay with him.
Maybe, but not likely.
San Francisco takes Trey Lance with the 3rd overall pick. What do you guys think?
Well, I think this is an amazing pick for the 49ers, especially after all the debate over whether they were going to go with him or Mac Jones, and now they officially have gone with Trey Lance, who has a really high upside. His measurables on paper make him a player with the highest upside in the draft. He has a pretty low floor, but his upside is amazing. I think that his arm, his speed, his football IQ, his arm and speed are there. His IQ maybe needs to be a little bit more developed. But I think that if he sits and learns Shanahan's offense for a year without very much playing time, it'll be an amazing fit for him, and I could see the Niners winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years.
Yeah, this could go down as the pick of the draft. Him and Kyle Shanahan's offense is a match made in heaven. He can run, he can make plays happen with his legs, kind of like Lamar Jackson, but he's a bit slower, just a bit slower than Lamar Jackson. And then his arm strength is what kind of stands out about that, his accuracy down the field, and with Ayuk and I forgot the other receiver's name.
Deebo
Samuel, that's his name. I think that Trey Lance will succeed in that offense, especially with George Kittle at tight end.
Yeah, he's not really like Lamar Jackson at all. He's more like a Cam Newton, the big guy who's mobile, has the speed, but also has the arm to be able to just heave it as far as he wants to with accuracy, but he can also outrun the defense. While Lamar is a guy that's just going to try to outrun you and maybe be able to throw the ball. But Lance is a throw first, run later, but he has my comparison to him is 2015 Cam Newton.
Yeah, if Trey Lance plays anything like prime Cam, then San Francisco's going to have a star.
Yeah, I think he will play like prime Cam, because who wouldn't want to be like prime Cam? And I think that his prime will last for a while.
Jazz, Suns, Clippers, Nuggets all clinch their spot in the playoffs. What do you guys think?
Very happy to see that the Western Conference playoffs are not containing the Lakers officially right now, because I think that the Lakers, they got really cocky. They went out and they added pieces that they maybe didn't need to add. I think that keeping Green would have been a better fit than getting Schroeder, to be honest with you, because LeBron plays point guard for the majority of the time. Green was a really nice 3-and-D shooter. I understand that he made a meme out of himself in the finals, but did the Lakers still win the finals? Yes. And Green has been on 2 championship teams in a row, and I think that there's a very real chance he's on a 3rd one right now in Philadelphia. And I really like these teams that are coming up, as the Suns went 8-0 in the bubble and now have a really good shot at being number 1 in the Western Conference. I think that the Suns could be in the finals, and I could easily see them winning the championship over the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I think it's the 4 teams heading into the preseason that we kind of, well, 3 of them that we kind of knew would be there.
What's the one you didn't know was going to be there?
The Suns. I mean, the Suns, I had them making the playoffs, but it wasn't a lock for sure. The Jazz, Clippers, and Nuggets were kind of all they're going to make.
The Suns were a lock for me, especially after their bubble performance and the addition of Chris Paul. One of the best passers of all time.
Yeah, I think it's exciting to see the Suns on the rise. I think that, like you said, they can easily make the championship. I think the battle between them and the Jazz for the number 1 seed is going to be one of the best things we've seen in a while. Because any one of these teams, I think the Jazz are 1.5 games ahead, and the Suns have a pretty favorable schedule. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I think these 2 teams will meet each other in the conference championship game.
I definitely agree with that, but maybe not the Western Conference Finals. I think that one of the teams is going to get bounced, and it's probably going to be the Jazz, because their way of playing in the playoffs statistically doesn't work. They shoot a lot of threes and defend, but their in the paint game isn't all that great. And I could easily see if they play a team like maybe the Mavericks or the Trailblazers or the Warriors. I could see the Warriors beating them in a 7-game series.
Maybe.
Time for some argumentative topics. First up, what was your favorite NFL draft pick?
My favorite pick has got to be Christian Darrisaw. After the Vikings, they traded out of the 13th spot with the New York Jets, who traded up to take Vera Tucker, and then they traded down, and they still got arguably the second best tackle in the draft at 23, I think it was. I think it's an amazing pick. They sure of a spot on the offensive line, and it helps Dalvin Cook, as well as giving Kirk Cousins that protection that he needs in a division that has Khalil Mack rushing him, as well as the Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, the fact that they were able to trade down and still get him. But my favorite's got to be Tylan Wallace, the receiver out of Oklahoma State, going to the Ravens. Heading into the draft, wide receiver was their biggest need, and they got Rashad Bateman in the 1st, which was a steal, and then they got Tylan Wallace in the 4th or 5th, which was another steal. He's a big play waiting to happen. At Oklahoma State, he could create separation. He's a great route runner. I think he's that guy to help Lamar Jackson down the field and finally get that receiver. He could easily beat Bateman to be the number 1.
I see where you're coming from with the Ravens taking a receiver, but I think that if you were going to say that the Ravens receiver pick was the best pick of the draft, you would have to go with Bateman. But at the same time, the Ravens already have a great run game, already have a couple decent receivers. They got Marquise Brown, who I really like, as their deep threat guy. They have Sammy Watkins. They have Mark Andrews at tight end. They have a lot of pieces, and I think that receiver was a big need for them. However, for the Vikings, tackle was a way bigger need than receiver was for the Ravens, just because of they let their tackle go. I think it was Riley Reef, if I'm not mistaken. And in a division full of pass rushers, the Vikings made the best addition possible to their team while the Ravens, if you're going to pick receiver, you would have to pick Bateman for it to be valid, to make the most sense.
Don't get me wrong. I love the Christian Darrisaw pick. I think he's going to go in there and impact them from day one. But I also think Tylan Wallace is going to have a bigger impact because Lamar Jackson over the last 2 years put up good numbers without a true number one wide receiver. Hollywood Brown's been that number one for there, but he's not consistent enough. I think Tylan Wallace.
Lamar also prefers the third of the tight end. You see it in his game. Hollywood Brown is open and he throws to Mark Andrews contested because Mark Andrews is better. And I understand that receivers was their biggest need. I understand where you're coming from. However, the positional need it would be a better pick, and I'd see more where you were coming from if they hadn't already taken a receiver earlier in the draft. And the Vikings traded down and still got a top 10 player in the draft in the 20s.
Next up, who won the draft? Anthony, what do you think?
I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns. I think they had a great draft. They got Greg Newsome in the first, which was a very good pick for them. The secondary needed some help outside Denzel Ward, and I think he was the best corner available on the board at the time. And then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the second was the steal of the draft probably. I think he'll fit perfectly into that Cleveland defense. And at 26, when I was watching, I thought they should have taken him there. And the fact he fell to 52 when he was a top 20 player it's shocking. And they were had to trade up to get him. I think that was the best move for them. I think this team's ready to compete now for Super Bowl.
Owusu-Koramoah also after the draft, reports came out that he had something wrong with his heart. So I love the Browns draft, but I think overall the Bears are who won the draft. They went out and they got Justin Fields after they traded up to get him, made their franchise happy, their fans happy. And then in the second round they went and got Tevin Jenkins, who I had a very high grade on. You go out and you get your future left tackle and your future quarterback, and then you already have him surrounded with Allen Robinson and Jimmy Graham. So he has targets no matter how old they are. They're still really good targets. And acquiring a future quarterback that shouldn't have been available when he was is a great pick. So I think that the Bears won the draft overall just because they're building for the future now. While the Browns are building to win now, but they're building towards the future, which is probably going to bring them a Super Bowl or two.
I think this draft was so good for so many teams, it was hard to pick a winner. Now, there are some teams you can look at them and go, they clearly didn't win. But the three teams that I think had the best draft were the Bears, the Browns, and the Dolphins. And I just think the Browns, they made the playoffs. I think they made it further than the other two, and I think they're finally ready to compete now.
Yeah, I think the Bears were on the fringe. I do understand where you're coming from, but the Browns didn't really have as many holes to fill as the Bears did. And the Bears had a huge gap at quarterback after letting Trubisky go and then signing Dalton. And if you think Dalton's going to lead your team to the playoffs, I don't know if I can have a civil conversation with you, to be honest. And then you go out and you get Tevin Jenkins, especially after Charles Leno, the left tackle that they had, leaves in free agency. So now they have a future quarterback, future left tackle, as well as that defense that's most of the way there as of now.
Yeah, they were one of the teams that were just missing a quarterback, and the Browns needed some defensive help, and they solved that out with the first two rounds.
I think it was better for the Bears just because of the fact that the Bears were worse overall than the Browns were, and the Bears drastically improved while the Browns only minorly improved.
I can see where you're coming from.
All right, next up, where is the best fit for Aaron Rodgers? Will, what do you think?
I think that the best fit for Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to would be in Washington. I don't know if the Packers would trade him to an NFC team, but I think in Washington he'd thrive. You have Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and a couple other receivers, as well as that amazing defense on the other side. And I think that, as well as Logan Thomas at tight end, and Rodgers loves to throw to the tight end. So I think that if you stick him into that system, Washington goes from more than just a division contender to an actual Super Bowl contender because of that defense, because of if they do add Aaron Rodgers, that amazing receiving core that they've built, along with Rodgers' MVP talent. So I think Washington would be the best place for him to go for his career if he wants to win another Super Bowl.
I would love to see him go to Washington and kind of what he would build in there. I think the best fit arguably has to be Denver. All bias aside, imagine him in that Denver offense with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant. Like you said, he loves to throw the tight end, and Noah Fant, he's top 10. He's got the speed. He's got everything you need in the tight end. And he's got KJ Hamler as well, Tim Patrick, and that defense is already stacked as well. So that good offensive line. I think him going to Denver would make the most sense.
I understand where you're coming from, but you can't say no bias. You're going to go to the Broncos while wearing a Broncos jacket. I don't make the rules. And I say Washington, even though they are a division rival to the Eagles. Washington makes the most sense. Their defense is way better and ready to win now. Their offense is ready to go now. The Broncos have a couple more years where they still have to see how Cortland Sutton's going to come back from his ACL, how that defense is going to go without a true good linebacker, without really anyone other than Von Miller defensive line-wise. And their secondary is really, really young for the most part. Actually, their secondary is not really that young. But Surtain, you have to still see if that's going to pan out. You should have taken Morey in the first round instead of Surtain because Jackson's going to leave in a year. I don't know if the Broncos would be a good fit. I love the weapons. I just don't think that Rodgers would be a good fit because of that competitiveness of that division. If Rodgers goes to the NFC East, it's a lock that Washington's going to win the NFC East. But if he goes to the AFC West is going to be the Broncos and the Chiefs in conversation for who's going to win it. And I don't think Rodgers wants to have a wild card game if he does get traded.
That's true, but I mean, Denver's a quarterback away from contending. They have all the pieces set, and Aaron Rodgers would complete the team.
They're also a head coach or an offensive coordinator.
We Fangio's a pretty decent head coach.
Yeah.
All right, last argument. Who will get the 5th and 6th seed in the West? Will, what do you think?
I think that the 5th and 6th seed is either going to be it's going to be the Mavericks and the Portland Trail Blazers. I think that the Mavericks, yes, they've been inconsistent right now, but they're fringe. And the Lakers have been just playing terrible, and they're real competition with the Lakers. And the Blazers, well, the Blazers are the Blazers. They have Damian Lillard. He hits clutch shots whenever you need him to. So I think that the Mavericks and the Blazers are going to get that lock for the playoffs and not have to play in the play-in games.
I see where you're coming from, but I'm not. I agree with the Mavericks part. I think they're the better of the 3 teams that are in contention right now. But I think the Lakers are going to edge. They're getting Anthony Davis back. LeBron, he's rumored to come back very soon. And I think they're finally getting their team back together. And I think they're going to be able to go on a run to make it past the Trailblazers, who have been very consistent over the last couple of weeks.
I don't understand where you're coming from on the Lakers being able to come back. They got LeBron and Anthony Davis back a couple of weeks ago and then got beat by almost 10 by the Kings. I love the Kings. I really do. But the Kings didn't have De'Aaron Fox that night, and they still lost. The Lakers still lost. And I think that the Lakers team has just had too many things go wrong with it, and they added too many pieces that didn't fit well with the system. Marc Gasol doesn't fit well in that system. They need a big man that can complement Anthony Davis. Montrezl Harrell can't score beyond the three-point line worth anything. And Andre Drummond is overrated and not that great of a defender. So I think that the Lakers team doesn't fit well together, while the Portland Trailblazers team fits amazing together.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think,
and they've been together for like 2 years, 3, 4. They've been together for a long time.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think it'll be very close down the stretch. One of these teams will pull through. The Mavs, I think, are the ones that'll easily get it, though.
All right, time for some NBA game picks. First game, Pelicans versus Mavs. Anthony, who's your pick?
I'm going to go with the Mavs. I think they're a better team overall than the Pelicans. Yes, the Pelicans are still in those play-in games, but I think the Mavs are going to get back on track for the win here.
I'm going to go with the Pelicans. I think that their shooting is a lot better from the beyond the arc. Luka and KP are really the only true shooters on that Mavericks roster, and Zion Williamson is going to bully Kristaps Porzingis in the paint. Kristaps Porzingis is tall and skinny, while Zion Williamson is short and compact and strong and can finish through anything. So I think that Zion will go off and that the Pelicans will pull out the win.
All right, next game, Trailblazers versus Jazz. Will, who's your pick for this game?
I'm going to go with the Portland Trailblazers here. I think that Damian Lillard is going to have a very good game against Mike Conley. I like C.J. McCollum, and if I'm not mistaken, the Jazz still don't have Donovan Mitchell back.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but even if they had Donovan Mitchell, I'd still have the Blazers winning this game, mostly because of the perimeter shooting of the Portland Trailblazers.
I think it'll be a very close game. I'm down to the wire, but I'm agree with you. I'm going to go Portland if Donovan Mitchell is still out. I think he's going to be that. He has to play if the Jazz want to get that number 1 seed.
Next game, Clippers versus Hornets. Anthony, who's your pick for this game?
Give me the Hornets. I think LaMelo, he came back and he's been playing really well. Again, I think they're Charlotte's trying to make the playoffs right now, so give me the Hornets.
I'd love to say the Hornets. I really would, because I don't like LA teams, just because I think they get way too much media coverage. Mostly because I also think that LaMelo gets too much media coverage. But I have to go with the Clippers here. I think that they outmatch in almost every position on the court and on the bench. The only position that they're not really outmatch the Hornets in is point guard, because LaMelo is clearly a better point guard than any of the point guards on the Clippers roster. I just think that overall, the Clippers are a better built team, and a team that's trying to make a deep run in the playoffs, while Charlotte is just trying to make the playoffs.
All right, Trailblazers versus Suns. Will, who's your pick for this game?
I'm going to go with the Suns here. I think Chris Paul and Devin Booker are an amazing fit together, and I think that their scoring and passing will be able to beat a team that is very good defensively, such as the Blazers. I think that the Suns are going to pull this one off.
Yeah, give me the Suns too. The Trailblazers are going to be playing a back-to-back this night against the Jazz and the Suns. I think the Suns are more complete than the Trailblazers.
Next up, Pelicans versus Warriors. Anthony, who's your pick for this game?
Give me the Warriors. I think Curry's been playing out of his mind recently, and I think he's going to continue that against the Pelicans.
I 100% agree. I think Curry has been playing amazing. He's shot himself, in my opinion, to the top of the MVP conversation. He had one of the greatest shooting months. He had the greatest shooting month of all time last month. He's been averaging, over the last 10 games, I think he's averaging 40-something. And I think that he is carrying this team, and that he'll be able to make it past the defense of Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Next game, Heat versus Bucks. Will, who's your pick for this game?
I'd love to say the Heat here. I love Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, but the Bucks are an amazing team. Giannis, still overrated. Not going to step down from that, but he's an amazing player, and that team is ready to go deep in the playoffs, so the Heat are still fighting to make a good case in the playoffs. I don't think that they'll be able to go on a run like they did last year, so I have the Bucks winning this game.
Yeah, I have the Bucks too. I think they're so well built that they're finally ready to contend and make it past the first and second round. The playoffs, they're trying to go deep. Give me the Bucks.
I don't know if they're going to make it past the first or second round, but
we'll see.
Next game, Celtics versus Knicks. Will, who's your pick for this game?
I'm going to go with the Knicks. The Knicks have been playing amazing this year. They've surpassed any expectations that anyone could have had for them. Before the season, everyone expected the Knicks to just be another bottom-of-the-barrel NBA team contending for the top pick in the lottery like they always are. And then Julius Randle decides to go average 25 and 10, I think is what I saw. And RJ Barrett decides to get good at shooting the three-point, and they draft him. They get Emmanuel quickly after trading for him in the draft. And then on top of that, their bench just decides to actually play well. They get Derrick Rose in the middle of the season. The Knicks have surpassed all expectations, and I think that they're going to continue to do that. And I can very easily see the Knicks playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think that the first step to that is beating the Celtics in this game.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I'm gonna go with the Knicks too. They've been playing out of their mind recently, and the Celtics have been so inconsistent this season. So give me the Knicks.
Next game, Jazz versus Kings. Anthony, who's your pick?
It's gonna be the Jazz. As I think it'll be very close, but I think the Jazz are gonna end up pulling out the win.
I don't know if that's going to be the case, buddy boy. I think that the Jazz at that point will become content with where they are, because the number one seed will either be locked in or they'll have lost it to the Suns. And I think that they're going to be playing kind of easy because they expect to beat the Kings. And then I think that the Kings are just going to decide to go off and beat them. So I think that the Kings are going to win this game.
Just move on, or okay. Next game, Magic versus 76ers. Will, who's your pick?
It's going to be the 76ers. Joel Embiid is going to body whoever the Magic have playing at center. Ben Simmons is going to body R.J. Hampton and Cole Anthony at point guard. And I think that the 76ers are just a team that's very likely going to make a deep playoff run this year, while the Magic aren't going to make the playoffs this year.
Pretty sure they're already eliminated, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sixers big. I think they're the well-built team. They're way well-built. Give me them. Sixers.
All right, last game, Nets versus Cavs. Will, who's your pick for this game?
I think that I'd like to go with the Cavs here. Actually, I could easily see the Cavs winning this one. Colin Sexton has been playing amazing. However, I think that the Nets are going to win it because Kevin Durant is the best scorer of all time. Kyrie Irving has the second best handles of all time. And I think that James Harden is coming back.
Pretty sure he's already back.
He's not. He hasn't come back yet. I think that this is the game that he will come back, or he'll stay out until the playoffs.
I think they might just rest until the playoffs. But yeah, give me the Nets big. I think they're
Well, not big. Just give me the Nets.
Give me the Nets big. I don't.
Not big.
Nets big. I think
Nets.
they'll destroy the Cavs.
They're not going to destroy the Cavs.
All right, thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Campbell Choate, joined here with Anthony Silvani and Will Stephenson, and that was Beyond the Sidelines.